A cold front moves through just in time for the weekend. The less humid air on the way and the next chance for showers.
Happening right now, leaders in Benson holding a meeting to discuss a search for a new town manager. What the mayor is saying about the critical meeting for the town, millions of dollars in debt. And construction on 440 just never seems to end. The widening project has had numerous setbacks and is way behind schedule. Let's dig a little deeper into what's taking so long and when it might finally be done. We have got quite the newscast for you tonight. You got the drought, might be easing up a bit, which is nice. We find out if 440 and 540 are ever going to be finished, and a town with some money troubles tries to find a fix. So many of tonight's stories came from you and your ideas, so please keep them coming. Send us questions, comments, feedback to 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. We'll try to answer some of your questions at the end of the show. First up, remember those rainy days that we just had recently, one after the next? Looks like we're going to get a little break from that for just a little bit. Just 2 of the next 7 days have a chance for rain. Mike, sounds like good news for getting outdoors, but yes. Man, I like the progress we've been making when it comes to this drought.
Yeah, we put a little dent in the drought, but we have a long way to go to get rid of it. In fact, the forecast from the Weather Prediction Center is drought will persist into the summer. So this is the last week drought update. We had exceptional drought in the west. Much of our viewing area was under extreme drought. Then we had a week of nice rainfall for much of the state, although there were some losers up in the northern part of the viewing area. That's why you're still in the extreme drought. But the remainder of the area is back to severe drought. Probably won't last long because we do have a little bit of rain in the forecast. Not enough, not like we saw over the past 30 days where the southwestern part of the state saw a good amount. The Sandhills had 143% of normal over the past 30 days, but it was the opposite up in the north. That's why you folks are still in the extreme drought, and with very little rain in the coming days. Next week's drought update, we may see the drought spread once again. But we have nice comfort coming for the weekend. I'll show you how it'll feel coming up.
All right, talk to you then. Thank you, Mike. It does feel like a perfect time for another episode of Drought Daily. This is the segment where we answer your questions about the drought until it ends. Peggy emailed 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. She asked, I was wondering if the drought is now over due to all the rain we've gotten over these past days. Is the burn ban lifted in Fuquay Arena? So should we start? We should start by saying that the burn ban is gone. It has been for a few weeks, actually. Now, the rain and the humidity decreased the risk of a fire danger, so the state dropped that ban. But Peggy, as Mike was just talking about, all that rain we got was still not enough to end the drought. I mean, we did make some progress. Again, here's a look at the drought map. Mike just mentioned a lot of this. 65% of the state was in that is in an extreme drought. This week, it's down to 37%. That's pretty good. Many of the people in those areas are farmers, and they told WRL's Bailey Stamos they're relying heavily on irrigation systems to get through this drought.
While watering systems are keeping their crops alive, some vendors are still taking a hit.
They look, kind of droopy and kind of smaller. Those are drought sunflowers because they just haven't had enough water like they normally would get.
Farmers are facing a new reality as drought trends show no major changes anytime soon. WRAL meteorologist Amy Wilmoth breaks down why the weather is here to stay.
The recent rains have been very helpful, but looking at forward, we don't have a ton of really good rain chances, so we might see things worsen a little bit as we head into next Thursday when the next drought monitor comes out.
And while recent rain brought some relief,
the whole state of North Carolina is still in a drought, but we're seeing some improvements right down here. So last week they were in an extreme drought. Now they're in a severe drought.
That trend's coming back to farmers.
We have lost some because of the drought. We're concerned about the water shortage in Johnston County.
All right, thank you to Bailey for that. We did reach out to the State Department of Agriculture to see if they plan to provide emergency support for farmers. They did tell us that it's still early right now. They're going to keep an eye on things. Let us know if you have questions about the drought. You can email 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. We might feature your message in the next episode of Drought Daily. Let's get to a story happening right now here at 7 o'clock. The town of Benson sorting out some financial problems. They're looking now for a new town manager to get that done. Grace Holland in the Live Center now keeping tabs on this special town meeting being held tonight, Grace.
Dan, that meeting just went into closed session within the last few minutes. So back here, you're looking at some video from last week when we were covering this story. The board is listening to interviews and considering some applications for new interim town managers after town manager Dan Rideout gave his 2 weeks notice last week. That came after using profanity in a town meeting to describe Benson's financial situation. Assistant town manager Calla Godwin also resigned last week.
All right, Grace, thank you. If you're just getting to the news tonight, let's get you caught up. These are the 5 things you should know right now. Some new video tonight of Gwendolyn White. This is the woman accused of shooting 2 lawyers in downtown Raleigh last week. The video showing her shouting and cursing at a family, claiming they were destroying her property. That family got a restraining order against White after this. That forced her to get a mental health evaluation, to sell her home, and to stop posting about the family online. White now faces 2 charges of attempted murder and is being held without bond. Raleigh police took an unloaded gun from a student at Broughton High School today. An SRO got a tip apparently about this student. Law enforcement then responded. State law requires students to be suspended 1 year if they are found with a gun. The new chief of the Federal Reserve released his first inflation report today, and it wasn't good. Kevin Warsh found inflation today is at its highest level in almost 3 years, 3.8% last month. He also found this is mostly because of surging oil prices. RDU just signed off on hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts to expand the airport. The money goes to contractors working on runways mostly. Construction already underway. The expansion project isn't expected to be finished until 2032. And we now know when crews will break ground on the new Buc-ee's along I-40 in Mebane. They will get to work on June 10th, less than 2 weeks away. The Mebane site will be the North Carolina's very first Buc-ee's location. All right, it's time for a good question that we received in the 7 p.m. inbox. This is the newscast, of course, that wants to talk to you about what you want to talk about. And a whole bunch of you clearly wanted to talk about this. The high school track athlete disqualified in the state championship meet earlier this month. We got so many emails and opinions about this. Video shows that athlete holding up his hand as he crossed the finish line. The official there warned the athlete earlier in the day and said that this was the second offense of, in their opinion, worthy of a disqualification. It didn't just cost him that race, it cost the team the state title. Now, to the question at hand, we should say. A viewer named Liz wrote in and said, I want to know what constitutes showboating. So if someone wins the race, they can't celebrate by screaming in excitement. We need the whole story, she continues, to make an assessment on what happened. And it is a really good question, one that we got a lot of times in our inbox. We looked, we couldn't really find any specific language in the rule book that defines showboating, but it sounds like we might get one. And it sounds like all the parties involved will get the whole story. You see, the school, Mallard Creek High School, appealed this ruling. And today, the coach, the principal, the athletic director, and the High School Athletic Association all met to talk about that. Here's the statement we received. They said the panel considered statements and evidence presented by the NCHSAA and Mallard Creek High School over a period of approximately 2 hours. The appeal remains under review, and the appeals board will issue a decision within the next week. So, Liz, we don't have all the answers, but we might soon. But when this decision comes down next week, you can count on us to report it. Let us know what other good questions you have out there. We'll try our best to answer them. Email 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. Tell us what is on your mind. We'll talk about it here in our 7 o'clock newscast. Speaking of good questions, is I-440 ever going to be finished? There have been work on that for, 7 years now? The reason why it's taking so long is actually pretty interesting because the process of building a road like this doesn't necessarily work the way you might think. That's after the break. Plus, stick around for tonight's One Last Thing as we answer another good question. Why is Stormy a pig again? Now, here's what's coming up on WRAL News at 11 o'clock.
They're sweet, they're colorful. Teens love them. Tonight, though, 5 on Your Side is investigating the hidden dangers inside these cans and how one drink may be way too much.
They are always building something in our area, and we like to talk about it here at 7 o'clock. It's time for another developing story. Tonight, let's talk about all that road work on the Raleigh Beltline. The I-440 project is almost finished, so they say. NCDOT saying it's just a few months away from completion. That's it, end of summer. I mean, yeah, there's still a bunch of cones and stuff like that out in Western Boulevard near the interchange, but they did get a lot of work done. All right, that is true. There's some new pavement. There's an extra lane. Now, before we wrap things up and move to weather, why don't we quickly talk about another follow-up question? Because the only thing more frustrating than the 440, all right, I'm getting a, there we go. So, where was I? Our equipment here is messing up on me a little bit. Now, we do want to discuss, I'm trying to get to it here on the thing. Why don't we send things over to Mike while we reboot the system here, and then we'll get things going again. Is that okay, guys? Can we do that?
Here we go. So with all the humidity we've had lately, we had ample amounts of rain for many locations over the past 7 days. That's why we saw a change in the drought. Now we're about to shift the pattern again, where it's going to become drier and more comfortable. We had 89 actually at RDU today, was 91 in Fayetteville. For the day tomorrow, we're down to 85. 62 is the morning low. Now, if you've been up early in the mornings, you realize how muggy it has felt because the humidity has been so high. Now, with the dry air coming in tonight, tomorrow morning here in the Triangle, 62. You will notice the difference when you head out. 50s for some of the cooler rural locations. Beautiful day. Saturday, a 30% chance of rain. I think it'll be more focused in the southern part of the state. 65 in the morning. It'll be breezy in the afternoon, becoming even more less humid for Saturday afternoon. Sunday, I think, over the next 30 days, that'll be the best feeling day. 54 the low, but I think some of the more cooler rural areas could be 48 or 49. That's a possibility. 78 later in the afternoon with dew points in the 40s. So check out the muggy meter tomorrow. We'll be comfortable. For Saturday and Sunday, refreshing. Monday, here comes the next cold front. The dew points spike around 60 degrees, so it'll feel a little bit more uncomfortable. Then they crash on Tuesday. The humidity will drop, and boy, that'll feel pretty good. 87 right now as we look over at Gibson Play Plaza. That'll be a great place to hang out over the next 7 days. The humidity will not be bad at all. Open window weather. In fact, we're already seeing the dry air come in. Remember that front that was up in southern Virginia last night producing storms? It's to the south now. So now drier air is able to make its way in. Look at the dew points to the north. 50 in Roanoke, 50 in Richmond. That's that drier air that comes in tonight. And there's so much more to come. Look at all the dew points in the 40s to the north. This is with the first front. There's another front that comes in on Saturday bringing more dry air. And then there's another one on Monday that brings more dry air. So it's going to be consistently drying. This rain starts to build back into the area on Saturday, but it's only a part of the viewing area that will see it. So Saturday morning at 7, waking up to dry weather. Here comes the next front. Boom. Showers develop in the southern part of the viewing area. And if that's the case, Raleigh and points northward will be dry. Yeah, we need the rain, but it'll be a nice weekend to be outside. In the afternoon, dry. Yard work can be done. Wash the car, no problem. And then Sunday, again, feeling even better. So the lows tonight will be in the upper 50s to maybe mid 60s in Fayetteville, 62 in Raleigh, 61 at Rocky Mount. And then for the day tomorrow, our highs will be in the low to mid 80s. We'll call it partly cloudy. More comfort to come over the next 7 days. Morning lows will be in the 50s, highs 78 on Sunday. That'll be the coolest. On Monday, a 40% chance for showers and storms. We're back in the 80s Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Dan, it feels very nice.
It does, Mike. I appreciate the forecast saving me there from our equipment kind of going awry, which it still is, by the way. So we're going to do our best to kind of tell this story, looking at some notes and things like that. We were talking about I-440. It's been, 7 years now since the work on that began, deadline after deadline being missed. Well, of course, it's very complicated work to do that sort of thing. Building a new road is a whole lot easier than it is expanding a road like they're doing on 440, because they have to worry about detours and cars flying back and forth and that sort of thing. But you might be interested about your experience with driving on roads like that, because while those work crews have to do what they have to do, we're the ones going through the traffic and dodging the cones and the barrels and that sort of thing. And I'm sure, like me, you wonder sometimes, where is everybody? Where are the workers? There's a few reasons.
This project is in an urban environment It's highly phased, up to 4 phases, and sometimes up to 10 steps within each phase.
You see, this work isn't done the way you may think. They don't tackle entire sections one at a time, doing steps 1 through 10 here, then moving on to the next. Instead, they hire contractors for each specific job, each step. And they go step 1, step 1, step 1, step 2, step 2, step 2, which is why when you're driving down the road, you'll see some sections busy and bustling with workers, while the others seem abandoned and forgotten.
There you have it. All right. Now, if you were thinking to yourself, good explanation, but I would like to hear you say it in a car. We have that for you, actually, because I did a piece there tonight at 6 o'clock. We did a WRAL Investigates, a piece on this topic. We get a lot more in depth. Driving around the Beltline, you can find that story right now on the WRAL YouTube page, some more details. Before we wrap things up, though, again, and head to weather, we do want to get to another, a good question that somebody had, because the only thing more frustrating than the 440 situation is the 540 project. So a viewer named Jason wrote in 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. He said, I live in Johnston County. I commute to Cary every day. I would like to avoid 40. But the only alternative is to pay $5 round trip in tolls. My question is, why are we being asked for more money for toll roads? Don't we already pay taxes on everything? The middle class can't catch a break. And boy, I know exactly where Jason is coming from. The flurry of taxes these days, everything else that is going up in price. It can be a little crazy. It can feel like a lot. And when you get that bill from NC Quick Pass, sometimes you wonder yourself, are they messing with me here? Really, especially if you miss a payment, you ever do that? All those bills can add up, and they are going up when it comes to tolls. Tolls on the Triangle Expressway actually increased this year, a 12-cent increase from Highway 55 to Durham, and a 14-cent increase from 55 to Garner. But Jason's question is more specific. He asked, why are we being asked to pay more for these tolls? Well, there's a few reasons. And it's because all of that money goes back to the complete 540 project. It is funded by a mix of state funds and tolls. As you look at the map, most of 540 is finished, of course, but that section in red connecting Knightdale to Garner is still in the works. Construction is underway right now, and DOT expects the road to open in 2028. Perfect. Another long-term deadline from the DOT. So you might be thinking, when it's all done, if it's being funded by the state money and the tolls, when it's finished, the tolls will go away, right? We won't pay for those anymore, right? No. Not so fast. Let's look at the state law for this stuff. It says the Turnpike Authority shall, upon fulfillment of the revenue bonds, remove tolls from the Turnpike project. Okay, so it's not when the project is finished. It's about when the bonds are fulfilled. Okay, well, how long is that going to take? How long is it going to take us to pay off all of the work that we are paying for with these tolls? And here's what the Turnpike Authority told us in 2024.
We pay that over the life of the project, so anywhere from 50 to 60 years until all those debts are paid.
Okay, so I won't be here anymore. That's what you're telling me. So I'm going to be paying for the rest of my life. Maybe my grandkids. No more tolls for them, maybe. So you heard that correctly. We'll likely be paying for the Triangle Expressway for the next 50 to 60 years. Talk about a deadline for me. Don't be surprised if that gets pushed back as well, or maybe just forgotten about entirely, since all the people that just watched this report are either going to be gone or too old to care. All right, what other questions should we ask? And what more do you have for us about the road work in our area? Send us an email, 7 p.m. at WRAL.com. What part of the process do you want to learn more about? Is there road work projects maybe near you that seem like they're never, ever, ever going to get finished? Let us know. We'll talk about it. We'll get down to some of the nitty-gritty right here at 7 o'clock. So we got something coming up after the break. Another good question that I was curious about. Why is Stormy a pig, right? Could be a million other things. He's a pig. We're the Hurricanes. What's a pig have to do with the Hurricanes? We're going to get to that right after the break. Okay, one last thing to talk about tonight. I'm sure you have a lot of questions about the Canes and their playoff push so far. Will they keep the momentum? Will they close out the series in Raleigh on Friday? But I wanted to know, why is their mascot a pig? His name is Stormy, and he looks like this. Not a swirl of wind or a Zeus-like character or a WRAL meteorologist. He is a pig. More accurately, a hog. His full name is Stormy the Ice Hog, which was almost the name of the entire team, if you can believe it. Actually, that would not have been a first. There was a minor league hockey team in Illinois. They are the Rockford Ice Hogs. Kind of looks like Stormy if he was a bad guy in a 70s gangster movie. The point is, when the team first moved to Raleigh from Hartford in 1997, they almost went with the Carolina Ice Hogs. North Carolina is the #2 state for hog production, and the team wanted to have a name that was Southern and Carolina and had our identity, and the Ice Hogs kind of made sense. So did the Hurricanes, of course, and ultimately that's what they went with, but they decided to keep Stormy as a hog, giving a nod to North Carolina's agricultural backbone, and that is why Stormy is who he is. Now, for tonight's feedback, we wanted to share some exciting news. Today, WRAL won 3 regional Edward R. Murrow Awards. One of them was for overall excellence. The other 2 awards have to do with this show. WRAL News at 7 o'clock. Our team was recognized for excellence in innovation, and one of our In-Depth with Dan segments was recognized for excellence in writing. You might be thinking, really? Excellence? I know some of you don't feel that way. Let's read a couple of viewer emails to keep us humble. "You're fired" is all I'd like to hear about you. That one came from an anonymous viewer. Rob writing in, "Your coverage sucks." Daryl said, "Dan and Ashley both stuttered over their words. Call me if you need your teleprompters fixed." And Aaron wrote, "I've never seen anything like this segment," which I assure you is not a compliment. Awards are nice, but we do appreciate